Dr. CNwokoji, who is on the staff at Tennessee State University as a member of the Department of Criminal Justice. And Dr. Nwokoji, before we had our break, we were talking about some aspects of the criminal justice system involved with the prison system. And let's have you during this segment to give our audience some information about the prison system in America. We understand that not only have you worked in policing, but you've also worked within the system itself. Let's talk from that kind of experience and your academic experience as well.
Yeah. As I indicated earlier, I worked with the D.C. Department of Corrections, and I served there for 6 years. And a combination of my academic experience and practical experience, I came to a conclusion that the correctional system in the United States is not working. Although some academicians might have reservation towards that, but from life history and observation and participation, I think I'm in a position to come to that conclusion. When you come to D.C. Department of Correction, I see that as a lab, in the sense that it says exactly what takes place in 50 states of the United States.
So it's sort of a prototype of everything else.
Yes. And a significant number of the inmates that you find in urban prisons, with particular reference to that of Lawton, Virginia, population-wise, places saturated with African-American population and other minorities from Haiti and any of these Latin American countries. And if you talk to them one-on-one, crime committed by them has a relationship to economics. It has a strong relationship to economics. It's either they robbed, it's either they were arrested for drug peddling. A significant percentage of them, you find them tied into economics. And a less percentage of them is tied into things that are unrelated to economics. So what this simply says is that there's a strong relationship here in terms of socioeconomic status in relationship to criminal justice system here. But the question one must ask here is that there's no behavior without a cause. It's not like you have AIDS simply emerged overnight. There are explanations to this problem. What that simply means is that the system is kind of polarized, economic-wise. There's a wide gap here. These individuals who engage in crime relative to economics did not simply decide to engage in such activities. So what that simply meant is that many of them here, as you find them, have been engaged to peddling of drugs, selling, buying, all tied into money making. But the problem I find here is that, from that observation, is that the system is kind of weak. Because again, you find the rate at which these inmates come in and go. What that simply meant is the rate of recidivism at the D.C. Department of Corrections, which is prevalent among other urban cities, is very high. The system, the way it's designed, it's like it is sort of a rendezvous. It's not deterring. It's not deterring. The probation, the parole system is kind of weak. It needs to be reformed completely. The entire organizational structure of this criminal justice system needs to be revamped completely, because it is not simply serving the purpose it's set to serve. Yeah.
Okay, so if we look at the D.C. system and we say that that could, in reality, be a prototype of correction systems and prisons throughout America, and we identify that system as being a weak system, is that by chance saying that perhaps even in all of these other states that, for the most part, we have a very, very weak criminal justice system dealing with prisons and the incarceration of inmates? Is that what we're saying?
Correct.
Now, do you find anything that is common among those who are incarcerated in the prison system? I mean, why? I think you've already indicated about the need to for economic stability and the need to make money in order to live and et cetera.
Correct.
But now, what are some of the other criteria that you can identify that is common among those who are incarcerated, and especially among African Americans and minorities? What are some of the things that you can almost say for sure that they are a part of that, whatever it is?
Well, when you look at the system here, you have a lesser population of white population in the prison. But significantly, you find African Americans saturated the entire prison system. I think it's very clearly for one to state here that there's a problem.
What about education? I think.
But what I see here as an external variable that affects the entire system here, you have a conglomeration of intervening variable here. You have, say for example, you have the sentencing structure here. It's simply intervened by some political characteristics here. You have two different individuals who have two different approach in terms of how they see the sentencing structure. You have the Republican Party, ideology, and their major underpinning here is that more prisons, more policemen on the street, tougher punishments, etc. And the liberal is saying that, look, we understand the historical development of this country, that this society is simply divided into two, where you have the privileged and the underprivileged.
The haves and the have-nots.
And the have-nots. And that there's an unequal distribution of resources. And that the only way we can close this gap is by providing some social programs that will tend to control this type of behavior. But these two basic ideologies, to a greater extent, affects the entire organizational structure of the criminal justice system.
And so we can look throughout America and say that basically these are some of the problems that we can identify.
Correct.
Whether we're talking about the system in Tennessee, in Washington, D.C., or whatever. Correct. Now, let's talk about, when we come back after this commercial break, which we'll have within the next 15 to 20 seconds, let's talk about the difference between the criminal justice system as you experience that system on the federal level and on the state level. Okay. And we'll be back with you following this commercial break.